We are live. Welcome back to another Her Bold Voice LinkedIn Live. Well, first of all, I'm going to just say this. All my guests are special, but I have a real special guest today. She's not only just special, but she's like my sister. She's my dear friend. She's my lean on. Char's a lot of things to me, but welcome back as I showcase some amazing, fascinating females. But guess what? There's always space for those men. And we do have a male guest on this season as well, which I cannot wait for all of you to meet. That'll be another day, a few weeks away. But these are all fascinating people that are really stepping through, taking risks, stepping through, claiming their bold voices. And they're coming on here to share because as before we came on live, of course, Shar and I were getting caught up, even though I just saw her last week. But it's like we always got to get caught up. It's like I don't get enough of her. And we were just saying, it's showing the messy, and that messy is part of that boldness. But before I start going into the interview, I want to do my due diligence and formally introduce Mrs. Charmaine Brown. Charmaine Brown is the epitome of corporatepreneur turned entrepreneur. Her professional journey spans is an impressive 30 years, showcasing her unwavering commitment and expertise. 8 years ago, Charmaine took that bold step, transitioning from a flourishing corporate career to a vibrant world of entrepreneurship. This shift was more than a career change. It became her life's mission. Charmaine is passionately dedicated to empowering women, guiding them to confidently move from corporate roles to entrepreneurship, armed with that courage, clarity, oh, my other favorite C words, and a sense of community. Charmaine's mission is unequivocal. She is a guiding light for women aspiring to forge their own path in business. She is here to reinforce that your inner strength is your most powerful tool, and achieving success on your own terms is just not a dream, but it is an attainable goal. So, with her vast experience and fervent passion, Charmaine is committed to helping you reach your goals and fulfill your dreams. She firmly believes that every woman possesses the power to effect meaningful change in the world. I'm right there with you on that one, too. So, to all the aspiring women entrepreneurs out there, remember, you got this. Sure. And listen, this whole, as I'm citing it, everybody who is watching and joining us, and by the way, everybody who is coming on, listening, commenting, I see that Razzie, by the way, who was here this morning, Shar, Razzie and I met on LinkedIn. She was a client a couple of years back. She just took the step yesterday from corporate to entrepreneurship.
Oh my God, I love that.
I think it's been about 8-9 years. She put a post on. It's been in the works. It's been in the making. It's been in the works. So she couldn't make it to the show today. But
that was a bold move.
Yes, it was a very bold move. Yes,
a lot of courage.
Yes. So if we don't acknowledge you while you're commenting and listening today, we are not ignoring you. I'm here to focus in on Miss Charmaine Brown so that we can deliver everything that you all take the time here to be here with us. So let's jump in.
Yeah, Kim.
Wait, I met you. It's been a few years. Well, first of all, I met you. You had already been in entrepreneurship for a couple of years, right?
I started in 2015. Actually, late 2015. My family and I relocated from Cleveland, Ohio to Detroit, Michigan. And I decided to kind of take the leap then. But I believe that you and I met during our time with NABO, the National Association of Women Business Owners. I was the president, or no, maybe even before then.
No, you were the president. You were the president when I met you.
Oh, gosh. Yeah. And that seems like eons ago.
Wow. What was that, about 5-6 years ago? I'm terrible with dates and time. My husband and I got married on 02/02/02, so I can remember the
anniversary. That's easy to remember.
Timelines are horrible with me. So we met about 6 years? It's been about 6 years.
All right, let's just call it 6 years because I've been here for 8. So 6 years.
6 years. Yes. And you had already been embracing your entrepreneurship.
Yeah, I had, although I was still relatively new. I think the interesting thing about entrepreneurship, especially when you are transitioning from your corporate career
Mm,
into entrepreneurship, is really trying to figure out who your identity is in that entrepreneurial role.
yeah.
Because prior to that, my identity was so connected to the company I worked with, the work I did in the community, like all these different things, right? And now I am Charmaine Brown of Connections Consulting Inc. And Charmaine Brown, who just moved from the only town that she's ever lived in besides college at Michigan State University, and the Charmaine Brown who needed to just kind of figure out life 2.0. And so it was it was a huge transition. So even 2 years in, I was still trying to figure things out.
And wait, and how many more years in do we still try to
Oh,
figure
trust. We are
and
always
pivot? Yes, always.
there is, we're always working towards the North Star, but we never really get to that North Star, right? Because as we achieve these different milestones, we build and we want more, or we create additional goals. It's just a part of the journey. And so I think over these past 8 years, the thing that I've learned to do is to um, really embrace the journey, not necessarily the destination, because you learn so much about yourself.
Mhm.
Get to hone in and craft and build and develop and create all these things that you probably didn't think was attainable in the past, especially when you have these corporate careers where, people kind of tell you what path you're supposed to go on, right? And we can get into a whole conversation about how what happens to us emotionally, physically, and mentally when we're inside of organizations and trying to manage the politics and relationships and personalities and things like that. But that's for another show. So yeah, it's constantly evolving, and that's what I love about this journey of entrepreneurship.
It's I from the bottom of my heart, it's first of all, it's been 100 years since I've been in corporate, and it has been 100 years since I've been in corporate. And what you just said just reminds me of, yeah, when we are in organizations, we do have a tendency to lose ourselves in so many, and you're right, that is a whole other show, but in so many other ways, between, health and the golden handcuffs, and I have to be a certain way. If not, I'm going to ruffle feathers and I may get fired, and,
Mhm.
the fear and all of that.
Yeah.
And again, I want to get real clear here this morning, and I know Shar, you'll agree with me. Is look, everyone tuning in or has not had a chance to tune in and they watch it later, if you are a woman in an organization, this is not about us taking the biased opinions of you need to rock it on, sister, and
Oh,
move it. No, we need women in both. We need women in those C suites in organizations, and we need women in the C suites of our businesses as well.
yeah.
We need both. You and I might have to do another show to really talk about how to not lose yourself and maintain your bold voice and stay healthy. And all right, so we're going to have to do that.
Part
Um,
2.
yeah. So, Shar, when do you recall grasping and grabbing your first bold moment?
Mm. Ooh, that's a touchy one. I can certainly say it was when I made the decision to jump into entrepreneurship because I was that C-suite chick. Like I was going to grow up the ladder and I was going to retire, like the traditional way of doing, your career. But I would say probably the biggest and boldest move that I've made over the past 2 years was getting honest with myself and then saying it out loud that I wanted more. I wanted to impact more people and do it differently than what I have been known to do and be.
Mm,
So my entire career, both corporate and into entrepreneurship, has centered around diversity, equity, and inclusion.
mhm,
And whether I was working inside of an organization and helping to build the strategies, both from a talent perspective, from a culture perspective, from a marketplace perspective, I then transitioned that skill set into entrepreneurship and started up my consulting practice. I thrived in helping organizations to build their DEI strategies and to seek the gains that they were looking for to help grow and build their businesses. After what, almost 30 years in the game, I got exhausted, right? 2020 was like the perfect ugly storm, as I describe it, with the pandemic and with all eyes glued on TV and all the social unrest from George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, like the list goes on. My business tripled. Why? Because I was in the DEI space. However, couple years later, I found myself completely drained. And in the midst of all of that, a lot of life changes were happening. And I know we'll talk about that later. But my bold voice, when I finally tapped into my bold voice was I had been in therapy and I had said it out loud that I want to help more women transition from their corporate careers into entrepreneurship. And you would think that would be relatively easy to say, but for me, that was very hard because what it meant was this thing that I had been building and that I've been known for, that I've had successes in, that that's my brand, that all of a sudden now I want to pivot into something totally different. And when I told my husband, he was actually the first person besides the therapist that I told, and I was most concerned to share it with him because he saw this bigger vision
mm.
for my consulting practice. And I was like, dude, you may see that, but I won't be over here. And so me saying that out loud was probably the biggest bold move that I could make over the 8 years of entrepreneurship was to say, yeah, I know I've excelled in this space over here and this is what I'm known for and I can make a lot of money easily over here, but I want to be over there.
Yeah, yeah,
I want to be over there.
yeah.
And so I think, through this journey, what I have come to realize, and I know we're going to talk about this, is that I am an entrepreneur. I have two businesses. I have my consulting practice and I've got my coaching practice. So I get to do both. And as the business starts to grow, you will start to you we make pivots, right? We will determine at whatever point that is whether it is time to do 100% over here or I don't know. There's this thing called selling a business, which I mean, in entrepreneurship, I had never thought about those things before. But now I get to think about so many different things and execute on those things. And that's what I love about entrepreneurship. But I will tell you that was my biggest, boldest move over the past 2 years was making that, saying it out loud, and then making the decision to move forward.
And then making the yeah, absolutely. Weren't you a little, I guess would be the word nerved when you were getting ready to tell Fernie, your husband. We all,
Yeah,
by the way, everybody listening, we all love a Fernie Brown. We
Bernie Brown.
love a Fernie Brown.
He and I could have our own show. Actually,
I,
you listen, if he was up here, he'd want to be in on this right now. So
and he could. He could.
No, we don't want him involved right now. Not right now.
I mean,
But
but weren't you, like, a little off? I mean, was it
well,
more like you were going in, "Look," I mean, you and Fernie have you guys have an amazing marriage, and I don't want anyone listening that I'm not talking perfection, just like human beings, everybody has their ups and downs. They're raising an amazing young lady, amazing human who I'm a fan of. But
Mama Lou.
yeah, little Mama Lulu, Michaela, it but were you going in to share with Fernie, "This is where I'm going. This is the type of support I'm gonna need," or were you going in to ask for permission?
So that is a really interesting one. So kind of the set the context for why I had that conversation with him. My dad was going through heart transplant surgery. Like that, the year of 2022 was really tough. My uncle passed away. The person who I had hired left. I had just a series of losses that year, and then my father needed a heart. And so my year was really centered around fear, and which caused me to have to go into therapy. So I had been in therapy all of 2022 and was really struggling with I was a high functioning person with depression that turned into non-functioning. And again, because of all the life changes. And so my husband was watching and he was being very supportive. But when you're on the outside, and he's such a helper, wanting to help so much, but didn't know how to do it. So the day that I went to him, and I tear up every time I think about it, but in some ways he was nervous that what I was going to say to him was I wasn't happy in the marriage. And it had nothing to do with him. I was more scared to tell him because, the reality is there are only a few people in my life, and Kim, I don't know about you, but there are only a few people in my life that I feel like I have to have their permission, not permission, but their support and their, you know what, you can do this. And it is my parents and it is my husband. That's it. So if they're not on board, then I'm struggling, right? Because they are my number one cheerleaders. And so I was more concerned about that. And in some ways, it may feel like permission, but it was more about, look, this is what I'm struggling with and what I want to do. And he was like, let's go. You know, I don't know why I would have thought he might not have been as supportive of it, but no, he was like, "Let's go. Let's
Yeah,
do this."
yeah,
So, yeah, I mean, permission maybe, but more around, are you are we gonna do this together? Are you gonna support me along the journey?
yeah.
And I don't know why I questioned that.
Shar, I'm wondering, and completely from a curiosity standpoint, I'm wondering if it was more of the permission to yourself and of yourself.
Mhm.
As
Oh,
you were as you were embracing, I mean, this ginormous, bold move, not just moment, but move.
yeah. Yeah, oh, yeah. Um, and I think at the time it was I didn't wanna do consulting anymore, right? Like, it was, "We're about to cut this off now." And I did for a minute, and, unfortunately, when we when we operate in our emotions, and making big decisions like that, it has profound impacts on reality. And so because I checked out in 2022, rightfully so, right? It was hard life lessons going on and emotionally challenging. I completely checked out. So when I made the decision in 2023 that I was going to really push my coaching practice, I was financially struggling. Like look, I was struggling big time because I spent 2022 just surviving. There was nothing about that year that was thriving for me. And when from a business perspective, if you're not business developing, right? If you're just servicing your clients, I apologize, but my Yorkie is scratching on the door. Do you
I was
hear that?
wondering if that was, heaven or if that was Leo.
That's heaven. Oh God, sorry. Um, but I had clients, but I barely touched the surface that year. So when you decide to start something new, the
Mhm.
reality is no matter even if you're like, I could do this, I don't need to hire people, I don't need it still takes money. And the bills were coming. And I made a bold decision to invest in a coaching certification that I could not pay for. But I was like, you know what? I am just on a prayer and a wing.
Sounds familiar. I did
we
that.
gonna,
Yes, I get
we
it.
gonna, we gonna figure it out because that was my bold decision to say, you know what? I don't know how I'm gonna make this work, but we gonna make it work. And so I think being smart about, you know, the decisions and taking some of the emotion out of it um, is the right thing to do. That just was not my experience last year. And so I eventually, right sized, of course, and I'm running both businesses, and that's perfectly fine now. Um, I know I kind of went off on a tangent with that. I don't remember the question.
No, you didn't
Dare
go
to
off. No,
say.
no. It's that wing and a prayer. Sometimes, and again, it's like in my opening. It's these are these are people that come on my show. We take those risks, and what you went through, I went through when we went in quarantine
Yeah,
with my
yeah,
because my business was all in person here in the Detroit area. And I remember standing here with my hands on the hips, and the tiara tilted off to the side, going, "I'm not changing the business model." I too invested
yeah,
into that, and still with that same person, coach, and helped me turn things around. In fact, I'm looking at, again, welcome everybody, and we're not ignoring the comments. I am seeing the comment, and one of my Moxylicious mastermind sisters, who is now in the step after, or whatever you want to call it, group legacy. Elena is on here, and you want to see. I mean, she was on my first round. I think it's time to have Elena back on here. I see some realness and some raw and some. I'm talking some bold ass movements here, but we
mhm,
do need to step in and take some effing risks, whether we are staying in organizations to
mhm,
expand, break, push, elevate, whatever you want to call it, or take those risks if we are going to step into entrepreneurship. And the reason why, I just want to get really clear with everyone that's listening. The reason why I was asking Char some of these questions is because, first of all, I know her husband, Fernie. I couldn't even ever dream in a million years he would not support you.
mhm.
I mean, he would say, "Hey, baby, if you want to go left and I'm over here, right, you go." I mean, we are
He's
not,
gonna go with me.
yeah, we are not married to husbands. They are like that. They are like, sure, peace out, rock on. As long as you're happy, I'm good. They're the type of
Mhm,
husbands like that. But a lot of women, Shar, I see a lot of women still having to go in and ask for the partner's permission when it really needs to be, are we looking for to give ourselves that self
yeah,
permission to step in? And whether it's a wing and a prayer, floating on a feather type of investment.
yeah,
Because I remember having that dialogue with Steve. What was that? That was 3.5 years ago. I had that dialogue with him. So we need to do things like that as women. I call it, let's put stake in ground. Let's
yeah,
put stake in ground and get those intentions and do
yeah.
what it takes to move through
Yeah,
them.
I think it's important to recognize that we do have privilege, Kim, you and I,
Yeah.
and
Yes,
that
we
we
do.
do have
Yes,
very
we do.
supportive husbands. For those that don't have supportive partners, I think it becomes even more important for you to not allow anyone to take you off your square. If it is your goal and if it is your dream and is your desire, then you need to build a community around you of support,
Yeah.
people, women, men, whoever that will support you in the most important ways that you may not be receiving at home. And I just wanna, just share that I know that that happens. I actually have a couple of clients who where their husbands are not very supportive, and they need people like me and others to be able to be that support system for them while they're building. One, in fact, husband was anti. He didn't want any parts of this thing that she's been dreaming about doing for a long time. And trust me when I say it is now extremely lucrative. He on board now.
Yeah, well,
Board
listen,
now.
listen, he don't get it both ways. I mean, come on.
But those are the realities, right? Not
Yeah,
everyone has a
exactly.
Fernie and a Steve,
Right,
and,
I agree.
so the message around that really is find the support that you need,
Yeah.
because there is nothing worse than walking away from what you were really intended to do,
Mhm.
what God or whoever deity you worship has said, "This is your purpose." And I think, when we talk about the self-talk, you call it the hag in the attic, I call it mind trash, stinking thinking, all the things, right? It does not go away.
No,
It never does.
no.
I think the goal is recognizing that it is stinking thinking, that it's mind trash, and having those affirmations or those, whatever your saying is, or whatever that thing is that pops you back into, girl, you got this, right? So for me, it's you got this. And so I use that all the time when the hag comes out, and
Mhm.
she comes out all the time. But that's normal, and I think, recognizing that that's a normal part of the process of really getting crystal clear on who you are and what you want, and even if nobody else understands it or buys into it, doesn't mean it's not you and it's not for you
Yes.
to move in your purpose.
Yes. It's interesting because, someone had asked, they wanted to know what the self-talk was like
Mm,
when you were making these bold moves, before, during, and after, and everyone just heard that, "Girl, you got this." You said your thing is you got this because we are all going to have an inner critic. It's learning,
yeah,
first of all, we design and create the inner critic. It's us. It's
yeah,
us. It's just another piece of us that we sit there and fight and kick down and drag down and beat,
mhm,
to hell and back. We're beating to hell and back ourselves. So it's learning how to really manage
yeah,
uh, that the stinking thinking, the
yeah,
crappy thoughts, so that you don't go back in that corner and hide
yeah,
or just sweep underneath the carpet and tomorrow will be another day. And I agree with you, Shar. You and I, we are very privileged because we do have supportive husbands, but sometimes I need more than a supportive Steve. I need my girls, and I know the people who I can turn to. And you are one of them. And I just recently held back from you, Michelle and Tanya. And yeah,
oh,
it was
yes, I
in
remember.
October
Uh-huh,
when life was,
mhm.
and I'm like, what, what am I doing here? But when you're so in a midst of environmental depression or situational depression, it's hard sometimes to reach on out, but we need other like-minded folks in our life as well that either have done the steps, doing the steps, or getting ready to take the steps to bring us
Yeah,
around. Because entrepreneurship is not for everyone. I mean, I just had the Hag in the Attic popped up on Sunday, and it's like, whoa. I can say though, my hag does hang out I think I can manage it for about 10, 15 minutes. Used to be days. It used to be
Yeah.
months. It used to be
Oh, yeah.
years on it.
Oh, yeah. But I also think that it's important for us to give ourselves grace to go through the process. Um, I had so there's a couple things that I wanna share in terms of what I was saying to myself, because I think that the people listening who might connect with my story, need to know that it's normal. I remember saying to myself, I just naturally help my friends out, right? I naturally coach people. Why would I feel a certain kind of way about monetizing that. I remember also saying to myself, um, I'm I'm good, but am I really that good? Can I really help somebody transform? Can I, will people take me seriously? Do I really have to have credentials in order to be taken seriously? All of these things, right? And here's what I learned. Your people will be your people. Okay. Um, there is somebody out there who is looking for your gifts. There's someone out there who's looking for your gifts no matter what you have on the back end of your signature.
It's true.
They are looking for someone who they can connect with, who has experience in what they've already done, and who can move them from A to B.
Mhm.
And so I had to get really clear that my journey is my journey. I can't compare myself to anybody else, nor do I want to. You hear a lot of times where people are like, everyone's writing a book. Okay. But guess what? It's not your story.
Yep.
Everyone is coaching now. Yeah, but they don't coach like you.
Mhm.
Everyone's starting a podcast. Yeah, but they don't have that flavor like you do, right? And all these things that we tell ourselves, it's the negative talk. We don't do enough of reframing the negative talk. And so those are some of the things that I've learned to do just over the past year and a half. Something I never learned in my corporate world. So I just wanted to share that because I think that's literally what's going on in people's minds when they're thinking about pursuing
Yes.
something new and different for them.
I agree with you. And just pursue and just get on in it and pursue. I mean, Elena just typed in. She goes, and only 1% published the book. I had no idea it was. I had no idea it was only 1% that published the book.
Right. We all have a story.
We all have a story, and it doesn't even have to be in a book. Just share your story, whether it's in a LinkedIn Live or a podcast or a book or a blog or a post, or is sharing the story. And by the way, that's the best way to deliver any kind of form of communication, is to connect with other people, is by sharing your story. And by the way, everyone, stop running around out there and going, you should publish a book. Stop shooting like that, because it's not that easy to go through a whole process to publish a book. As
No,
I've
wait,
lived
no more
multiple times.
shittings.
Yeah, just go do you. Just figure out what that is. And clarity is queen. Clarity is confidence. That's one of my favorite C words. Clarity is, if you're unsure and unclear, reach out. I mean, gather yourself around. I'm a very vocal thought person. I have to talk to hear myself,
Mhm,
to
mhm.
get to get through some clarity and some decisions. That's just how I roll. Not everybody's like that. A lot of
Yeah.
people can turn in and go journal. Oh my gosh, if I did that, my hag in the attic would have me down on the floor. It's just-
So what's interesting is I looked up the definition of confidence because last
Yes.
year I was doing a lot around this notion of confidence. And confidence is just the belief and trust in something or someone,
Mhm.
right? The problem is when we are starting something new, we typically don't have confidence. What we have is courage. The courage to actually step out there and say, "This is what I'm moving towards." The
Mhm.
courage to say, "I don't wanna do this anymore." The courage to say, "I wanna write that book. I wanna start that podcast. I wanna do whatever the thing is." The more you operate in courage, you start to build confidence.
Confidence. Yes.
So, I think, oftentimes we were like, "You just gotta have confidence." Courage, ma'am. Let's
Yeah.
start there.
Yeah, when I hear you say that, it's like the Nike commercial, "Just do it." Well, okay, just do it. Worked for Nike. We're human beings. Sometimes we have to process and go through a
Yeah,
journey, but bottom line is courage is one of the biggest ingredients to confidence. And when we pull back on the courage, it's like that ice. We chip away at the confidence, hence we
yeah.
lose our bold voice. And then before you know it, we're dimming our lights and things like
Mhm.
that.
No
Oh
more dimming, no more dimming. We're not doing that
no,
anymore. No.
gosh, that comparison starts coming in and, and
Ooh,
the other thing with that comparison is we do not know what goes on with other people behind their closed doors. There isn't such a thing as white picket fence, and excuse my analogy around that, because if you did have a picket fence, you have weather elements. It would get dirty. It gets icy if you live in Michigan. It gets snow covered.
yeah,
Everybody all has that picket fence, and it's not picture perfect. So we
yeah,
all have something going on. So it's grabbing that courage. And I'm a big proponent on courage, and it kind of reminds me of, I don't know where my brain just went with courage, the cowardly lion looking for courage, and the Wizard of Oz. It's
I like the whiz version.
the wisdom, yes, that courage and that confidence, by the way, everybody, is like a muscle. I mean, if you've lost some sleep, lacking sleep because of, I don't know, your menopausal and hot flashes, or whatever's going on, and you just woke up a little earlier, you may be a little off that day. So is
Yeah,
the confidence going to be sky high? No, but you can still have the courage and confidence to be moving forward in your day. That's why
yeah.
I love courage and confidence. Love it. Love it.
Mhm.
Uh, what are the steps if a woman right now is listening? They're in corporate and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I've had this dream. I've had this dream. I've had this dream. I have this dream." What is maybe the first one or three steps they can take to go from corporate and start working towards that entrepreneurial dream?
Well, the first step, of course, I'm gonna say is have the conversation with someone that, how do I describe this? Someone who will believe in your dream before you will.
Mhm.
Right? So that is definitely, someone who's already in the entrepreneurial space, someone who is either doing what you want to do or maybe not. Maybe they're doing something else, but they're, kind of they're in this bold space that you're trying to get into. I think the other thing that's really important when you're in the beginning stages is don't overthink it. Write it down. Write all your ideas down without boundaries. We have a tendency to say, "I would love to start a cooking channel on YouTube, but I don't know how to work technology. I don't know how to who's gonna watch me?" You wanna eliminate the boundaries out of the process and just do a total brain dump. You will be surprised at what comes out of your brain and onto paper, and when you put it on paper, then it actually starts to become real to you. Walk away, come back to it, spend maybe 15, 30 minutes a day. Just challenge yourself to do that once for the rest of the week, right? And then the last thing I would say is, sometimes, and I'm only saying this because this is what happened with me. Kim, I don't know how you did it, but I remember when I started my consulting practice. I started it only as a way to help some of my consulting friends do work while I was transitioning my family. We had moved and needed to get my daughter to school, all the things. And so I came up with a company name. I filed it with the state. I got an EIN number and I opened up a business account. Sometimes just doing those simple things makes it real. And then you can start to move forward. Like literally seeing it allows you to believe that you can actually do it. Now, those are some of the simple steps that I would say, especially number three, sometimes just operating as if this is exactly what you plan to do helps you to start to really think about the seriousness and the realization that you can actually do this.
Yeah.
But you can't do
Agreed.
it without community. You just cannot do it without the right kind of supportive community.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And I love those steps because there are a lot of women I talk to that are operating as an entrepreneur and they do not have a name registered and a bank. It's like, ooh, I mean, let's step up here. I love having something anyways like that. You go open up your business account,
Yeah.
tear out that first check, write void on it, and hang it on
Mhm,
a board. It's like,
mhm.
yeah, I'm big time.
XYZ company, but I don't know what we do yet, but I got a
I
company.
don't doesn't matter, doesn't matter. This is how we all began. Shar, where can everybody get in touch with you?
Oh my God, so many places. Well, obviously, I am on LinkedIn as Charmaine Brown. I also have Corporatepreneur to Entrepreneur LinkedIn page as well. That is the program that I have, Corporatepreneur to Entrepreneur. I am also on Facebook as Charmaine Brown, and I am also on Instagram as simply Charmaine B. So you can find me on any of those platforms. I also have my own podcast called Simply Living Me, which is on all of the podcast platforms. And would love for you all to just drop me a note and say hello. And love to hear what your thoughts are on our discussion today. So
Yes.
thank you so much, Kim, for having me.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for being here. And by the way, there's a lot of comments. You and everybody, Shar and I will swing back around at some point in time within the next day or two, and we will answer to a lot of your comments that have joined today. I want to thank everybody for joining us. But this has been absolutely wonderful. Oh, wait a minute. I
Yeah.
know we're on LinkedIn. Sometimes few of us hot platforms. You all must follow Charmaine Brown on Instagram. Oh my gosh, it is the most real Instagram you will see. Oh my God, Steve's in the background over here when I'm playing some of your stuff, and he's laughing. Just it is
So, yeah, I mean, I love to just infuse every aspect of my life, and so, I think one of the most important things that you all can do is just be authentically and honestly yourself, no matter what platform you're on. And so, yeah, I mean, I like to have fun, and I like to do hard things and have fun at the same time. So, I
absolutely.
share all the things.
Are there any last words you'd like to leave everybody with?
I mean, I think, part of this topic is around, forging ahead with grace. And I want you all to just give yourselves permission to pursue whatever it is that you desire. Remember, there's a millionaire out there who invented the pool noodle. Okay. There's a millionaire out there who invented linen water that's sitting in the container store, and all it is water with essential oils. Okay. So if they can do it, we all can do it. And I want you to believe that. And if you don't believe it, get with someone who believes in you and borrow some of that confidence until you can build on your own.
Yes, absolutely. Just borrow some of that confidence and find people that believe in you. Absolutely. Those can be some blind spots that we all have in ourselves. We need to see others out there that really believe in us. My gosh, thank you so much for joining
Hey,
me.
thank you for having me, Kim.
Yes, everybody join us again next week with another guest. I'm not going to tell you who that is. It'll be on social media. Same place, same time. Her Bold Voice LinkedIn Live and 11:30 EST on Tuesdays. Go out there, everybody. Go out there and just claim your boldness today. And if you
Mhm.
have any questions with Shar and I, just go back into a direct message in LinkedIn, or you can put some more things on this thread and we'll be back around and answering all your comments. So thank you for joining us.
Bye.